What is going on, everybody? My name is Jacob, been a diehard Pistons fan since '03, and we are here to report on the first Summer League game as the Pistons fall to the Philadelphia 76ers with a final score of 94-81. We're going to recap this game in entirety. We're going to talk about the individual performances from the actual impact players from the Pistons. We're going to talk about some of the stuff I saw from the team that I liked, some of the stuff I did not like. We're going to talk about Langdon speaking during the actual game itself, and a few other things as well. So let's just hop right into it and start recapping some of the individual players. And to start, we're going to go with the players I was most impressed by and work our way down to the players that I was not as impressed by. Also, quick preface, this is a Summer League game. Definitely don't take any of this as an overreaction. I'm just speaking on the game as I saw it. Trust me, I understand. This is the first game of the Summer League. Last year, in the first game of the Summer League, Victor Wembanyama looked lost on the basketball floor, and by the end of the year, he was piecing up the best teams in the league. So, all of this stuff, take it with a grain of salt, but this is just what I saw out there tonight. So, I'd say the best thing that we got to watch tonight was Bobi Klintman. He definitely looked good in all aspects. He finished the game with 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on 5 of 10 shooting. The shooting looked pretty good, 3 for 7 from 3. He shot the ball confidently. He shot a couple shots that were not like the easiest looks in the world or anything like that. They weren't all wide open. Overall, his shooting looked good. But beyond that, everything else is where I think I was impressed, and probably everybody else was a little bit surprised as well. His overall feel for the game looked really, really good. He looked very comfortable in his first NBA action. He was able to see the floor well offensively. Defensively, he was competing. He got back on defense faster than a lot of other players. Just overall, completely and absolutely happy with the way that the game went for Klintman despite the loss. Definitely a bright spot in this loss. Overall, I was very impressed with him. And I've got a very strong feeling that this is going to continue. It did not look like something that was not replicatable. It wasn't a hot shooting night, just out of the ordinary. Just everything about his feel for the game and instincts looked very impressive for his first game in the NBA Summer League. So that brings us to Ron Holland. There was a lot of things that I saw from Ron that I liked. A couple things that were like, To start with the things that I did like, he was able to get to the hoop very easily. All of those shots at the rim maybe did not go as well as we hoped. It led to him finishing with 5 of 15 shooting, also with 15 points and 7 rebounds. So when Ron Holland got to the hoop, there was a lot of times where he finished, so that was good. There was a good couple buckets of the hoop. There was also other couple times where he got the ball stripped from him, things like that. A few other times where he might have got fouled, but at the same time, he did get to the free throw line a good bit, shooting 6 free throw attempts. So really the takeaway is there, the fact that he was able to get to the rim and draw some fouls and a couple others that maybe the call would go his way on another day. That's definitely encouraging. Defensively, he was pretty active. There was a couple times where he made a few good reads offensively with the ball in his hands to pass, a few times where he didn't look too great making good reads, a couple turnovers mixed in there. Got the ball in the high post at the elbow, kind of had a few dump down passes towards the end of the game that I did like the looks of. So overall, kind of just like a 50-50 game from Ron. A few things to really like, a few things that were like, we got to work on that. So not a horrible game by any stretch of the imagination. Quickly on Aaron Estrada and Dennis Jenkins, they both looked pretty good. They were definitely solid tonight for what you'd expect out of them, right? Like considering that one of them, actually both of them, are undrafted free agents. They held their own out there. They didn't look lost or anything like that. A few shots dropped, a few shots didn't. And same goes for Tolo Smith. There was a brief minute at the start of the game where I was like, oh, this Tolo Smith dude can play. He had a couple early buckets, kind of got things going early. Towards the end of the game, there was a few mishaps and lapses there that were like, okay, this kind of explains why he wasn't drafted. But overall, not a bad game for any of those three, but not exactly standout games for any of those three. Even though Estrada did have 12 points and Jenkins did have 10 points. Definitely solid stuff, but nothing too crazy. So to talk quickly on Wendell Moore, just to be honest, I didn't like what I saw. I felt like he had tunnel vision at times. There was a play on the break where he got the ball and he ended up missing the layup on the break, but I felt like it was a 2-on-1 situation, and the obvious pass was it was like he got the pass from Holland, and the obvious pass was he drew the defense in and went for the layup and missed it. Holland got the rebound and finished it, but I felt like the obvious pass was just to dish it back to Holland to finish it. But either way, there was another play too in there where I felt like he kind of had his head down and had his tunnel vision on, which led to him finishing with 2 for 10 on shooting with 7 points. Not exactly what you love to see. I think he's just trying to make a statement that he belongs in the NBA right now. So, whatever. And the last guy to talk about here, as I said, we're going from most impressive to least impressive. I unfortunately do have to put Marcus Sasser at the end of this list, as he did finish with only 1 point in 30 minutes of action. I thought it was 4 points, but turns out the three-pointer that he did hit was actually a 24-second shot clock violation before he got the ball off. So finishes with 1 point in 30 minutes. I mean, 0 for 6 shooting, 0 for 4 from deep, 4 assists. Look, like I said, I'm not here to overreact to any of this stuff, but he didn't look like a guy who really was ready to graduate from Summer League basketball, if that makes sense, right? He was a rotational player on the main roster last year. When you have a guy who has played a full season in the NBA after being a 4-year college player that's had real NBA experience and 4 years of college to go along with it, you want them to show up to Summer League and play like they're not supposed to be there. You see that quite often. Guys like Brandon Miller earlier today, right? Like, you see him on the Summer League court and you're like, all right, dude, like, it's time to move on. Like, you're too good for this. And definitely did not pick up that vibe at all from Sasser tonight. I can't say that there was much that I did like from Sasser. He was playing his normal Sasser game, but the shots weren't falling. And for Marcus Sasser, when the shots aren't falling, there's not a whole lot outside of that for him to fall back on, right? Like we talked about earlier on this channel, he's not a magnificent playmaker or anything like that yet. So when his shots aren't falling, it can look pretty bad. And unfortunately, tonight was one of those nights. So to recap a few things as an overall team, rotations, things like that, they went ahead and started 4 of the 5 guys I predicted in my preview video. Their starters tonight were Marcus Sasser, Bobi Klintman, Ron Holland, Tolo Smith, and Wendell Moore. I thought that they were maybe going to start Dennis Jenkins over Wendell Moore, but Wendell Moore did get the nod, despite Dennis Jenkins playing the most minutes off the bench. So definitely had a good pulse on who they were going to play in the main rotation. They did get zoned a little bit at the start of the game, and that did also lead to other possessions where Ron Holland was getting completely ignored at the three-point line. Ron Holland did shoot 2 three-point attempts. To be honest, I don't know why, but I somehow missed one of them. I do vividly remember him shooting one. I don't remember the other. He shot it confidently, but teams were pretty much disrespecting him. And during those moments where he was spot up, just stuck there, and teams sagging way off of him, maybe I'd like to see him relocate. Maybe I'd like to see him cut. I don't really know what the memo is from the coaching on that as far as that goes, but he was just kind of standing still like a statue on a few of those plays as teams sagged way off him. So that was a little bit disappointing. The team did blow a lead. We were up like 5 with like 5 minutes left, something like that, which unfortunately is just too familiar if you watched the Pistons last season, which is just funny because all of these guys were not on that team last year besides Marcus Sasser, but it did feel the exact same way somehow. Outside of that, Langdon did hop on the mic and spoke for a little bit. He did mention that Asar has been cleared to play, but they didn't want to rush him back and ramp him up. So really what it came down to, right, is Asar was cleared to play probably like last week. And now that he's just getting back on the court for the first time in months, they're not going to be like, all right, dude, go play 30 minutes at the Summer League. So that's good to hear. They also said that he's been working with Fred Vincent every day on his jump shot. So that was also great to hear. So everything he said sounds good. To be honest, Langdon is a very good speaker. No shade to Weaver, but he's just much better behind a mic than Weaver. Much more encouraging if you're a fan. So everything he was saying was just like, you know, pretty good pep talk stuff. Everything sounded pretty good. The morale sounded good. Cade was in the building. Asar was in the building. Tim Hardaway Jr. was in the building. Rip Hamilton was in the building. So definitely cool to see a lot of those guys. But that's really it. Nothing else to really overreact to. Main takeaways, Bobi Klintman looked really comfortable. Ron Holland was somewhere in the middle with, you know, what you would expect from him. He was able to get to the hoop. Everything else probably going to take some time. Marcus Sasser didn't play the best game in the world. And that's pretty much it. We're on to the next game here that will be in not tomorrow, but the next day. Unfortunately, you pretty much have to go 3-1 at the very worst to advance in the Summer League. So getting off to a 0-1 start isn't ideal, but we'll see how they make out in the next game, which I believe is against the Rockets. And we'll catch y'all soon.